I think every piece of your story matters for something. I find it so strange in relationships. I have never been a person that like compartmentalizes what is my life experience. I feel like if you don't get to like actually know what's made a person who they are, it's so weird to me to think there's couples that just like hold back giant segments of their life. That's never like clicked for my brain, but I'm a very like open-minded, free-spirited person. We are very unconventional in the ways we view relationship dynamics, but that always has been strange to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I like keeping connections. If they're healthy, there's some connections that like they've earned their right not to like take up space in my life, but like if it wasn't volatile, like yeah, it is what it is. Plus, I don't know, sometimes
you still very much tell your whole life story. There's a very big difference between telling it in a story and then...
No, I hear what you're saying, where people like start dating and they pretend they didn't have like the life before their partner. That's
strange to me.
That doesn't work. That also might be we're both autistic.
I can write an entire story. Oh no, it's not just that. That's weird. It's weird.
No, that's what I'm saying is like neurotypical people, like that's a pretty normal standard. I don't understand the standard, but I'm just saying that I think that's part of the reason it makes most sense for us. To me, that feels like masking. And I don't want to mask is why I brought it up. I don't,
Yeah, I guess I just don't hold that possession component where I feel like being able to share all the elements, like you learn something from every single thing you exchange energy with, and it all matters for better, for worse. Every single interaction gives you a piece of yourself. That's how there is nobody that learns about themselves just by themselves. You learn from your connection with things outside of you. That's how you learn to figure out what you need, what your what your wants are. That's also how you figure out what doesn't work for you.
Also, they're like your ex for a reason. You know, like if I wanted them, they wouldn't be my ex.
Yeah, we don't think like that. I feel like it's a very different line of thought.
It's up to each other's boundaries and the communication level and what is actually comfortable. I think it's possible to be insecure about it and there not be a thing. I also think it's possible that, you know, again, depending on the nuance of the details, it makes total sense why a person wouldn't want them to talk to their ex in a relationship. Like if you guys started dating and like you've been cheated on, I can see not wanting to be talked to like exes and stuff. I think it just depends at that point, but I don't think someone should have to pretend like that part of their life didn't exist either.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of boundaries if there's actual communication with the person versus just being able to talk about situations that have existed. I have some friendships that they've never told their partner anything about their past, and that just, to me, I just don't feel like you actually can know each other fully. That's mind-blowing to me, actually, but
yeah, exactly.
Do you get bothered when called gay? No. Absolutely not. The biggest compliment we can possibly have. Thank you. But we also think very different. So we are both poly. So for us, like relationships have so much, the people that we choose to have in our life, it's because they bring out like the most important things that we love in ourselves. So we also think very non-possessively. So it has a lot more to do with... I have two friends that I'm like, I'll ask like a fun question and they're like, oh no, he doesn't know about that.
That's so weird because I'm like
that was like 5 years of your life. What are you talking about? I can never.
It just falls out of my mouth and I'm like, well, now you know.
Could never compartmentalize like that. I don't know. I'm really proud of my life story and all its plots. Nothing feels like a failure.
Everything was a lesson, too.
Everything's a lesson.
And if I can't talk about those lessons, and, like, if you only see the wholeness of me as who I am right now, I love who I am today. But I've crawled through some lifetimes, and, like, those lifetimes deserve space in my story, too. It's not, I get here and
Yeah, and anyway, there's a lot of layers to it, but talking about the like poly side too is just, I think connection is connection, and when someone is feeling like a really beautiful positive connection, that should always be very welcome in your life. I think we can all utilize like love, and that feels really really good, to have people that you love without blocks on it. That's like
Yeah.
both what we believe in, like just
I also think love can ebb and flow.
yeah.
Like it can be really intense at some point and then it can fizzle out to platonicity, but that doesn't mean you have to like
Mm-hmm.
cut them out forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we believe in a lot of relationship dynamics.
Yeah, there's like just so many freedoms, I feel like, that most monogamy culture wouldn't understand, like the expansiveness of it. Like it even has way less to do about like intimate relationships and more to do with like safety for other human connection without fear of losing
Mm-hmm.
your partner over them having a like fulfilling, well-connected life.
Mm-hmm.
Was that stated okay?
I kind of got it.
Yeah, I was struggling with the English part. It makes sense in my brain. It's hard to like put out into words.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so there's some people that I have boundary to never talk to again. The people that I am no contact with that held really big spaces in my life are no contact because it was very unhealthy, and the energy, no matter what, was not a positive exchange. There have been people that they just have not met me with respect. They make me feel really really out of alignment with who I know I actually am, and those people are no contact. The people that I've been in relationship with in the past that I still keep contact with, it's because we honor each other's boundaries and it's mutual respect. Yeah. So it just depends. It's a big array. I have some people that I have had different types of relationships with that I am in communication with, and others that I would never open that door again because they have proven again and again, no matter what boundary I state for myself and how I want to be related to, they can't honor it. And I always feel like if someone explodes on your personal boundaries and they can't handle it, then they are not really meant to be in your life.
Yeah, they're probably not.
Or if someone will use like a malicious way of relating to you, once someone has met me in like an extremely unhealed energy, I always use the like perspective, I would never do that to a person, and that is my standard. So if someone meets outside of what my standard is and does something like I would never in a million years do, that to me is already like a closed door boundary, because I have a lot of standards for my behavior and how I'm going to treat people. And it doesn't matter if someone triggers me. I would not say like the worst possible thing to them in a triggered state. If I'm triggered in a conversation, I can say, I don't have space to keep going in this conversation. I don't want to say something that I end up regretting. I need to go take some space. We can reopen this conversation when I feel like better.
That turns into healed versus unhealed, not X versus.
Yeah. But that's some of the standards for if I would talk to somebody or not. And yeah, I've had some people when they're mad throw out the most ugly things to try to make you feel bad, and I don't have space for that. That's some of the differences. If V was talking to someone they had been with that continuously just makes them feel awful, that would be a very different situation than if somebody knew how to respect boundaries. If I was watching V go through like spirals because they're trying to keep open communication with somebody that is continuously disrespecting them, I would have a major problem being their partner and having that be an energy that they are just keeping a door open for. So there's a lot of nuance within that.
I also have like a terrible time responding to people who take a lot of my energy. My people who are my people, that's like low energy, doesn't even expect a text in the next 3 to 5 business days, they get like instant texts. Anyone who like I know expects me to answer right away will hear from me in a week.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. I think energetic boundaries of who we allow in our lives is like honestly like a good little chit chat for the day.
Yeah.
Or like the start of the day.
Yeah.
So thank you for your questions.
Yeah. I think relationship dynamics are there's so much nuance to be said within it, but I think we sometimes can turn something, it's very normal to want to experiment if something can fall into a romantic channel and then decide that the romantic channel is not there. And just because the romantic channel does not work does not mean that person is automatically cut out from your life. There's just a lot of nuance within that.
I also, when I first met Jen, like one of my favorite dumb little sayings I have is it's not gay to kiss the homies goodnight. Like, I don't know, sometimes I would think along the lines of what you were saying though, is like sometimes you meet someone and you think it's like one channel, and then if you flirted for 3 weeks and you realize you guys are better off as friends, like that's terrible to end what could be potentially like a lifelong friendship just because you kissed your homie goodnight a couple times.
Yeah, I think another difference is there is people that, I don't know, I'm a very spiritual person, and I really believe that everybody that comes into my life as like a big character probably came into my life for a reason. So because I think in that way more than that's like one of my top value systems, right? Is I believe in the reasons people come onto my life path. So I see everyone as mattering and why they came. So I don't see it all as like mistakes or, I just view it different. So because of that, I feel very, it feels very good to have some people just, you realize what was good in that connection. I believe in soul contracts and just that certain people are going to come into your life to unlock something for you. And they might not be meant to stay in your life forever, but they might be there to be just bring out a certain element in you wouldn't have found otherwise. And for some, that's, adjusting the relationship, and some it's an in and out. It's just, I believe that there's a sacredness behind our connections.
Before Jen, I was living with a platonic partner of mine that we ended up married for a time, and then through what Jen's saying, the soul contract had kind of expired at that point. Mm-hmm. So we did divorce a little bit over a year ago, but at the same time, I think every bit of time I spent with that person up until, the lessons that we needed to learn together were over, were so worth it. And our relationship ebbed and flowed from we were romantic partners at one point, and then I think as we grew into who we are as adults, that's where it became more platonic for 3 or 4 years before we actually parted ways. And I wouldn't take that time I spent any differently. And I don't necessarily talk to that person now, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that they're banned from my realm of communication either. It's just that we're both on very different life paths, so there's no real need for it.
Yeah, and Lindsay, we've met so many people that have been able to take a relationship that was one way and turn it more platonic in a very healthy way. I think as long as your needs are being met in some way, the only thing that we can control for ourselves is honoring our own needs and saying what feels good and what doesn't. We're not meant to push our bodies past these big blocks and energy. You're supposed to listen to what is coming up for you and make space for what's coming up for you. And I think so many people ignore their own internal signals, or instead of trying to navigate what could be different boundaries within something, we can tend to run away from something when it gets hard, or completely want to block it out when I think there can be other ways to view things. That's definitely, to me, another big difference about being poly, is it's navigating emotional needs and relationship differences and just making space for what multiple people might need.
I say all the time, I personally, from monogamy to now, when I was in more monogamous relationships, like people even had an issue. I love my people so big. Like I have a very small group, but my small group are like my people, and I will give them whatever they need if I can. And so I would have partners that would like not love that though. Like possession is how, and I know not every monogamous relationship is like that, but that's how a lot of my experience felt. So like in the polyscape of things, like even though I only currently have like one partner, my friends feel like my extended like partners as well. Like
romantic friendships, just
Yeah.
like really loving them big and
Yeah.
not having someone
and
be
supporting
so
each other.
possessive of your time.
Yeah, which I think what you guys are doing is beautiful, to like be able to like cohabitate and see the friendship for what it is, and like just give your kids like what they need is like beautiful.
A lot of structures in society
Mhm.
before we became what we became did work a lot more in like tribe and commune and connection and community. There used to not be so much individualistic households. If you look at some of the older societies, it wasn't structured out that way. I don't think we're just meant to have one situation go perfect and meet every single need. I just don't think that
That
is
feels
realistic
crazy.
at all. And we waste so many resources not being able to diversify like what a family can look like and how vast the ways of living can be within that. I think families can just look so different. I think it's beautiful. I want to live in a reality where there is just more hands contributing to one thing. I really love the idea that love can be so much more expansive than we think it is, and I think we can get so comfortable in so many needs not getting met when we view relationships in an all or nothing kind of way, which is the toxicity that I think can exist in monogamy a lot. And that's how I kind of view and think of things. So
I also think when you are safe to expand into loving connections, regardless of what that connection like gets labeled as, I think you then also have a platform where you are safe enough to ask for the support that you need from like whatever resources, like the community. Like we are meant to live in a village, and not like literal village, but like it's that community mindset that Jen was talking about. Like we need each other because we got to this point where like everyone wants to do everything by themselves. So you have everyone trying to learn all of these skills all of the time and like be self-sufficient in that way. But like in a village setting, maybe Jen's really good at like knowing what bodies need. So if my body's hurting, let me go ask Jen, instead of like trying to then become the like body expert for myself. But then I also need food. So like I'm good at growing vegetables. Maybe I'm good at keeping plants alive, working on the vegetables now. So in the village, I have veggies. Well, Jen needs veggies, but she's busy helping everyone's body, so I give her veggies. You know, like it then becomes, you get to focus your time on the things that feel like most aligned with your like calling, whatever that is. And maybe that's multiple things. We're both Gemini, so we have tons of interests. That was a very finite example, but like that's what I like about being out of monogamy culture in general, is that I feel safe to expand into knowing people who know all their subgenre things.
Yeah, and I think another point that comes to mind, and this is especially relevant for Pride coming up, is that for a lot of people inside the queer community, your family that you were assigned at birth, that you were in, was maybe just like not able to meet one single need. There could have been a lot of limits there and belief systems that excluded you as like a human with your own needs, wants, and desires. And instead of respecting that, the rules of the house or the belief systems that they held were the only thing that was allowed to be right. And I think for people that were raised inside or who are a part of the queer community, like we have to build chosen family anyway. And so there's already like an understanding that you have to restructure and rebuild. We both don't have families that accept all the layers of us. So for us, building family looks very different. It's not going to look like traditional family dynamics.
Even if we weren't poly, it
Yeah.
wasn't gonna look normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's another important part of it when we think of diversifying what something can look
Soul
like.
fam.
Yeah, it's remembering that there's a whole soul family like out there. There's people that
Absolutely.
are gonna find you because you can change what family looks like. It might not be what existed within your home, and that doesn't mean that you are unable to have a family. Like, you can create your own, and family should stick together and honor what everybody's needs are and be able to meet everyone's needs with respect. And for some people, family is not going to look like the same structured family, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist or shouldn't be a part of your life. It's building it up in the ways that everyone needs.
And I think once you start building that soul family, like, it starts to get to the point where it's really hard to hold connections that just kind of are determined to misunderstand you. And that's kind of what happened for me when I first came out as queer back in 2016. I've had such an interesting journey, like, leading up to, like, the very loud and proud human that I am today. But, like, when I first came out, like, it was more of, like, whispers. Like, people I knew I could trust knew the real me, but then I also knew that I wasn't safe to be fully myself. So it was kind of like, do you know my secret? And then today it's kind of like, who doesn't know? Oh yeah. Like, there's only one connection I have that doesn't know, and I talk to them 4 times a year, and the only reason I just don't want to get into it is because they're like 80 something, and it's just, I'd rather cherish the connection for what it is 4 times a year than like, and let them, but now it's more of like, you just don't get access to my whole life, not I have to keep this secret side of me for the comfort of everyone else around me. It's much more the opposite. Like, if it's uncomfortable for them, I have plenty of love and support without them that I don't have to feel as hidden. And that only came through my journey of, like, finding my soul fam.
It's like 3-4 years, I have called in the most beautiful people that, like, I have not had to explain myself to at all. It's so real that when you change your internal world, your external reality shifts so much. And when you hold just like a different kind of aura and energy body to you because you have done the work to break other blocks, like, there are people that can stay in your life and there are people that will fall away so quick because they don't actually know how to navigate your most true energy. And that's, like, it's been wild to actually witness that, and then to have someone fall out of my life and then someone come in that ends up being just instantly so good for me, and just we just connect without having to even over explain any bit of it. It makes it very worth the work that you can do.
And we did talk about, it's funny, I feel like this is the next evolution of what we talked about. Was it like a week ago? Very similar on what you were just saying of the healing journey and what happens when you double down on your healing. And, like, there is this, like, unfortunate period where if you haven't really been focused on your healing, that, like, when you do start, you start to realize a lot of things will fall away right away. A lot of it's going to be, like, friends and family and, like, maybe jobs or just all these energies that have been surrounding you this whole time that do not work for you. And it's going to feel like a period of loss where, like, it really is, like, the first few steps of the healing journey of, like, the universe just saying, like, are you willing to let go what is not for you so I can make room and make space for what is for you? And it's really can be scary in those first few, like, phases of the healing journey because it does feel like loss after loss after loss. But once you've made all that space and you've shown, like, I can, like, trust the process, I can trust what's for my highest self, then that's when it starts re-alchemizing into, like, now you have all this space. Here's a person that's going to help you launch you to that next little lesson. Here's another person that's going to launch you to the next little lesson. And maybe those people don't stay long-term either, but at that point you've learned how to let go when it's no longer, you know, serving you. And, like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I've been really reflecting on the last 12-month period, but, like, if I click on to, like, the last 13 years from where I came, I'm turning 30 in, like, a week. So it's been very reflective for me. It's so crazy to think like the like 17-year-old me who was so afraid to let go of anyone, but honestly there wasn't a single person around me that was for like good for me in that moment. And like nowadays I think if I would interact with even like one of any of those energies, like I just don't think I would even have the space to pretend like I want to like hold on to that person if they're gonna do nothing but like cause me hurt and pain. So like it feels good to be on the other side of it, but like, oh boy, was it a journey, which circles back to how this started this morning, which was if you like people who have partners and then like don't talk anything about their exes or their past, like to me like that journey was so important to get to who I am today.
I think half the people that have fallen away from my life path as I've evolved and stood more in my authentic truth are the people that really can't handle change themselves. They are so determined to grip and hold one state of being because we all don't like feeling out of control. When you let go and surrender and trust, you're going to also be feeling so much more. And if you are avoidant of feelings or if you are avoidant of change because you are so scared of that uncertainty, you are not willing to sit in that for 1 second, you will try to double down on things. And if people around you are changing and shifting, you just can't stay lined up with that energy if you are so set on holding structure to what you know and what feels comfortable. And I had so many people that would choose their comfort over expanding like 10 out of 10. And it just didn't work anymore. The dissonance between like meeting their energy versus what my normal day-to-day would look like and the difference of how good I would feel and then to gauge that before and after feeling when I'd interact with them, it just didn't serve my nervous system anymore. It felt like I had to be a character, and I really lovingly brought that up to every person before I just closed the door of connection. But I would communicate with those people like, this is not feeling the same for me. Every time I interact with you, it feels like I'm just having to go into things that
this doesn't make yourself smaller.
Yeah, and this doesn't come up in any of my other connections. So I don't know how we can resolve this, but this is like really the way that I want to be met. And like they just still continue to meet you at like an old version of yourself, or they want you to act very much the same. Since I started my healing journey like really strong in like 2015. Life kind of gave me a near-death experience to shimmy me into my like healing journey. But then I would have friends that would even be like, oh, are you too like calm for this? Like making fun of what was the exact things that like saved my life. It's just not it. And these were friends that, you know.
Also, what a sick burn. Oh, it is your nervous system too regulated.
You're so good.
Like, oh, you got me.
If you have to start tearing people down because you can't handle it, like you really gotta self-reflect in those moments, because that's a low bar to have to tear people down because you can't handle where they're at. Instead of like asking questions or lovingly taking that inward. That's an issue to me.
It's so crazy. But I feel you on that's kind of like how some people want to stay in their comfort, and I think I always try to give people the opportunity that like my hand is extended. If you want to grow, I would love to grow with you. But if you want to stay where you are, I'm not here to shame you about it, but like I'm still growing. This is not my final form. And it is so beautiful to find people who are growing and they are not in their final form either, because then as you're still healing and trying to learn things, like I say all the time, healing not healed. So like we're even like reminiscing and holding space for like where I am now versus 13 years ago, but like there's still times every week where I have opportunities to grow and expand from like something I reacted to that like my knee-jerk reaction I know isn't like the healed version of me, like their best self. And it's so nice to have people around me who understand that like I'm still human underneath all of that, and to like help me connect the dots in ways that like next time that same thing comes up, I can give it a better response, versus the people who refuse to even grow. If you're in a healing journey and you have one of those moments because they don't want to change for anything, they're not going to help you figure out and connect that dot the same way. So as much as they deserve to be comfortable, if that's what they want, it's not what I would choose, but I'm not you. Everyone's on their own path. Like, you can stay over there, but I want to go find the people who are expanding and growing, because I'm still expanding and growing, and I don't want to stay small or stay this person you want me to stay just for your own comfort. That's not really fair to me either.
Mm-hmm. And I think what your point is also getting at is that you don't get to a point in your healing journey where all of a sudden nothing affects you and everything is just like beautifully positive all of the time, and you have to stay so cheery about everything that's happening. Like, that is not what healing is. That actually brings me like very close to my religion trauma, where you try to always act good and perfect and like
Be
that.
sweet.
Yeah, be sweet. Like, it's a cringy thing to think it has to be all positive. But there is such a difference in holding space in your emotion and not projecting it onto other people. Like, being able to say, like, whoa, that really triggered something in me, what you just said. Like, I need to figure out, like, what's coming up within that. Or, like, lovingly, like, I mean, I feel like when you are in a triggered place, like, and something comes up that's mirroring it, like, instead of deflecting it onto me, like, your nervous system, you'll know you need to go do something to regulate. Like, I need to go get outside, or I'm just gonna go do my yoga mat, or I need to go dance and shake it out because I have a lot coming up for me. Instead of feeling when you are uncomfortable in the emotion, you will start making other people suffer because you don't want to deal with the emotion yourself.
Absolutely.
There is no other, like, half of these people in our government, like, that are just tearing people down, there is like a rigidness to people that don't know how to sit with one feeling, and then they try to make everyone's life awful because they can't handle their own
I don't think people understand the power of touching grass. Like, I know it's just kind of like so serious. Like, I really wish it was more woo-woo than what I mean it. I mean, it is more woo-woo if you want it to be, but I really mean just go touch some grass and watch your body just feel way better.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
That's a side bit.
A little bit of a side bit, a little bit relevant. Like, all those people deflecting, like, I bet you if they touch grass for like 10 minutes and maybe took like an exhale, Jen has to tell me sometimes she can tell when my nervous system is getting to a triggered state. I live with a trauma disorder, so like, this is the other reason I find that it's really important.
They don't exhale.
I don't exhale, thank you. But I find it really important to have people who understand that I am constantly evolving and changing, and I cannot stay where I was. And I, like, at least I'm in a point in life where I guess I could get to a point where I can stay where I am, but I don't want to. Like, I know there's still so much growth for me, and there's so much more I can offer the world if I keep going. And it's so important for me to have people that can understand that, like, okay, like, I'm having a hard day, and like, sometimes I do go do yoga, go touch grass, maybe I go work in the garden. I have a whole healthy coping checklist now that I didn't have years ago that I'll go check through, and sometimes I still have a meltdown. Mm-hmm. And like, even at that point, like, it's so nice to have people that'll at least help get me to the next step instead of letting me cycle through the like shit that, like, some of it I literally cannot leave and exit. Like, it's gonna always come up. But like, knowing that I'm safe in my environment and the reality does help lessen any of that for me. And that's just my own personal journey as to why I'm so serious about my healing.
You can tell when people don't know how to exhale. There's like a reddish, tense, like, body language that exists when you are like up to here in repression.
We need oxygen to our brains, friends. And this is a message to me.
There's
too.
Like a reddish tone. It looks like they are about to explode. Like, there's an essence, right? Like an energetic. This could be my hyper clairsentience, but I can like feel it in the ether.
I mean,
just to give like a little nervous system, if you are listening into our conversation,
I just couldn't see the time.
If you're listening to our conversation, so your nervous system has two modes. This is just a little educational side bit that. It was believed for a really long time by science that you could not actually affect your autonomic nervous system. This is the part of your nervous system that's in charge of temperature, your immune system, your digestion, like things that just happen automatically. Like you can't will yourself to digest in the moment, or you can't fight what your immune system is. So it was believed you can't have any effect on your autonomic nervous system because it's automatic. It just happens. But what we've come to learn as we've figured out more about the body is that there's two branches in the autonomic nervous system. There's your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic comes on to help you get away from a threat. So it's your fight, flight, freeze, and fawn mode that protects you. And we all have it. And that's a normal part of the body's experience. And then you switch to the parasympathetic to calm your body back down and to regulate. This is in charge of our sleep. And it's our body's way of being able to just regulate itself. Now, what happens when you have had really high levels of stress for a long period of time, or you've had trauma where your body just didn't ever get to calm down, or something really traumatic happened? What can happen in the body is you can stay in sympathetic mode all of the time, which is that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And all of a sudden, you will start having parasympathetic dysfunctional problems in the body. So what happens when you are not feeling connected in your nervous system, mind, and body? You'll start having trouble with sleep. You'll start having trouble with digestion. You'll start getting sick all of the time. You will have issues with temperature regulation. You will have the checklist of what comes with chronic issues a lot of the time very much mirrors the body not being able to switch back into a calm mode. And this has so much to do with nervous system regulation.
It's kind of crazy.
Guess what turns the body from sympathetic to parasympathetic? Exhaling. Inhale. If you inhale really fast for a minute, you're going to shoot up the sympathetic nervous system because your body is going to think you're running from a bear. Yeah. If you start exhaling really slow and long, your body starts thinking it's safe. So what happens when V is in a triggered state is they're talking really, really fast and they're not breathing. I'm watching their color even change. Their body is tensing up. There is no calm mode kicking on. So in that moment, we need parasympathetic to kick on. We need a calm, or body can crash out.
Yeah. Which co-regulation helps with that a lot, but I also there's such an importance between having co-regulation techniques, which can help a lot if you're someone that has that problem. Also having self-regulation techniques is really important, because sometimes that happens when no one's around, and you have to that's where I have a checklist of breathing meditations that if I start to feel myself not exhaling and I need a little bit more co-regulation guidance but no one's around, I'll put on those breathing exercises, and then that's 10 minutes of very intentional breathing, and usually by then I've activated myself enough where I'm back in my body for at least a few minutes.
And that's, if you don't know about the difference between self-regulation versus co-regulation, there is a lot of people that experience pretty intense trauma really have trouble with self-regulation because maybe as a kid you weren't even safe to be by yourself. They wouldn't let you be by yourself. You just didn't learn how to actually self-regulate. So you had parents that, whether it was safe or not, were the only form of regulation you were getting. So often people will struggle then without co-regulation to regulate. So having someone else that they can mirror and copy and sit with them and add weight or hug or touch or talk things out with them. I do think it's very freaking important to pay attention if you cannot ever self-regulate. That's something that really needs to be focused on in therapy, because you can't rely on another person, as we said, all the time to regulate you, or that can get, really heavy burden on the people around you, because we all have to have tools to self-regulate. It can get codependent really fast if you don't know how. I struggled with that a lot when I was first leaving my childhood home. I kept people on the phone with me all the time. I always wanted someone close. I didn't know how to be by myself. If I was by myself for more than a minute, I started having a panic attack. I could just not be by myself. it was major issues that I had to figure out. But I think V even brought up a good point that one of the early things that I realized was I could also have very healthy energy exchange with things that were automatically going to be like reciprocal energy balance. So this is where people getting pets that they can co-regulate with can be really nice, or going into nature regulates you because you hear all the sounds, you're taking in the smell, it's enhancing your sensory body so that you are more present. And that can even be a tool for regulation. So it's just figuring out what works in your own body, like what actually makes you feel calmer.
And knowing the difference between healthy coping skills and unhealthy coping skills too. I think when I first started therapy, I did have self-regulation coping skills, but none of them were healthy for me. They weren't good for me. So I slowly over time...
Can you give examples?
I would really rather not. They were bad.
Okay.
Like excessive drinking, like
over consumption on the phone can be
over like scrolling. We live in a very high sensory world, so like, you know, if you find yourself having like the TV on and you're also on your phone while you're watching TV, and like even for me, like there was always like a third component. Like I would have like my computer playing one thing, the TV playing another thing, my phone doing another thing, and I think I'm watching all of them. That's not what's happening. Like I'm like way overloaded. I need to desensitize, which is where like going in nature, like they say, like you should spend at least, I mean, really like an hour, but obviously not everyone has that in a day, like 15 minutes a day where you're not looking at a screen, you're not listening to music, like you're just sitting with yourself. And that can be hard for a lot of people. It was really hard. Yeah, it was really hard for me. So I was kind of the opposite of you though when it came to my coping skills. Like I think because for me, I was sent to be out of sight, out of mind a lot in my life, that like where co-regulation is really helpful for me is if I am triggered and I am constantly self-regulating. Like sometimes I end up spiraling myself a little bit harder because I was constantly left to self-regulate as a kid. Whereas if I'm co-regulating with a safe partner, it speeds up the process almost for me. So like how my like stuff works is I end up more in the past, and I kind of forget that I'm in present reality sometimes. So like having a partner who is part of my present reality is really helpful. Knowing that I'm safe with her is really helpful. And like I just start repeating these facts almost. And I can do that by myself too. It just, I think, takes a little longer for me, which is fine. Like I still like that I have both the healthy regulation, self-regulation, and the co-regulation options. We've talked about this a lot too. Cold pressure. We have cold, what is that called? Ice rollers. We have an ice roller in the fridge. We have cold packs in the fridge. So if anyone's having like a very activated moment, there's like almost this like, it's not even like a fully like thought out process. It's just like, oh, let me grab you the ice roller. And that's like anyone in the house will do that. Like, oh, someone's having like an activation moment, let's get you some ice. And if you put it on the right side of your neck, that's where your vagus nerve is. I always forget the name. And the vagus nerve is widely connected to your nervous system. So when
it is your nerve.
It is? That's
it's a nerve.
I know it's a nerve.
It connects your mind and body.
Yeah, so it's a really good way, like, when you chill, because 9 times out of 10, if you're activated, like, I feel like you're turning red, like, your body temperature is rising. So that cold, like, for one, will force an exhale, because you cannot be cold and not breathe. Like, it's really hard. I mean, you can do it, but it's really hard to, like, maintain that. So that's one. And if you're, like, more reactive to the ice, you can't keep it on for, like, even just 10 seconds at a time. That's, like, a good tell that you're not regulated, you know? We all have weighted blankets and weighted stuffies in this house. You know, just knowing what helps you is such a good tool for like any kind of healing journey in general. And we're all human. Like, we're all human, whether you're like really actively like running down the healing path, or maybe you just know that you could use some better coping skills because like the day-to-day life is real hard. Like, either place in your journey that you're on is so valid, and it just takes baby steps at a time of like knowing yourself.
And I think we all have to figure out our own thresholds, because it's gonna vary from person to person. So for a very sensitive nervous system, like your tank, you might only have to go to here and you're at a panic attack. So your goal every day is to try to bring that threshold down a little bit so that when you get elevated, it's not capping you out. And this is all going to be like very personal. I think I like to share tools to help people with regulation, but it's going to vary because everyone's threshold is going to be widely different. So you really have to start experimenting on yourself.
It's also kind of like a muscle though. So the more you work it, the bigger that threshold will become over time.
Mm-hmm. I think being able to make a list of the things that actually do make you generally feel good, that maybe isn't only because it's very high stimulation. So thinking of the things that actually make your body feel calm, maybe not necessarily joyful, like calm. There's a difference. And being able to write those things down and then know to go to them the second you can feel that ceiling being pushed on your threshold is super important.
Even just feeling the sun on your like skin, like we all tend to like wear more exposed clothing during the summer. The sun to your skin can help your nervous system so hard. So even if you have nothing else but 5 minutes out in the sun, like you're helping your nervous system.
I'm someone that needs a lot of weight and pressure to feel into my body. So I actually need more sensory input in my body to feel more settled. So for me, when I am in a high sensory like overload, it's really good for me to ground with weight. So weighted blankets feel really good for me, or even finding just general movement in my body so that I can feel more body sensation is really important, because I get really out of body as far as sensation goes. So all of that's dropping in for me. I would actually say outside is not one of my like top go-tos. I think that regulates you very well.
Yeah, I grew up in the woods. That makes sense.
It's probably not my like top go. My number one thing that will regulate me when I am very, very overwhelmed is movement, and always has been movement. As a kid, that was my top go-to too. And I do think if we reflect on our child self, that's a really good way to kind of see what did you go to when you were a little kid, when you were overwhelmed, because there's probably a lot of wisdom there before you started like thinking certain rules. We didn't have, I guess, you know, it's going to be a little different actually as we have the younger generation, because phones were introduced so young. But you know, as a kid, I definitely know what I went to feel calm, and I also regulate very well by myself. A lot more too.
I just imagine 30-year-old you just coming out and you
for real rocking like yesterday.
No, you were doing it the other day at the group, and I was like, oops, someone needs regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I think yoga is really helpful for me. So I get out of my body a lot too, but I it's easiest to know when I'm out of my body when I start running into corners. I say walls try to trip me all the time, and which is definitely me deflecting from the fact that I'm not in my body. Like, it'll be the same corner I take every single day in my house, and I bumped it 4 times in the hour, and I'm like, maybe I should stop and do a little bit of yoga. And yoga isn't like the only option. I just personally like yoga because I have a very hypermobile body. So if I take 15 minutes, like not only do I get in my body, but 9 times out of 10, because I've been out of body, I've probably been like sitting in a funny position, and there's like things that need to like realign in my body when I do yoga. So it's kind of like a double win at that point.
All right. Sending big love to you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll be on tomorrow. Bye.